Do you ever struggle with doing men's hair in the salon or dread when you have a men's haircut appointment on your books? If so, today's video is for you. What's up? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jamie Dana and I am here to support you on your hair journey. So today's video is actually from the vault. This is a video that I filmed a while ago and never got to share here on YouTube, so it's a little extra treat. I'm going to be sharing with you my go-to men's haircut technique. Now, this is something a little bit different because I don't usually do a lot of men's hair here on YouTube, so this one is a little bit fun, but if you struggle with doing men's hair in general, this video is going to be helpful. So let's dive on in. All right, so this is our before. As you can see, it's a little grown out, it's a little shaggy, so we are going to just shape up his haircut and get ready to do some fun color on it. But obviously in this video, we're just gonna do the haircut, so let's jump in. All right, so anytime that I have somebody who I'm going to shampoo at the shampoo bowl and they have hair that kind of lays on their forehead or gets in their face, I always like to, before I even turn the water on, make sure to get the hair out of their face. So I always just kind of scoop it away from their face, and then that way, as we're going to put the water on, it's not like having to get it out later. So I always just do this. This is something that I was taught when I was a very new stylist, and honestly it is a game changer. So just get the hair out of their face and then you can go into wetting them down and getting it started. All right, so we are gonna section out his haircut, and one thing that I always like to do is I like to take my two pointer fingers and kind of create a guide for where I'm going to section out this horseshoe section based off of where his recession starts. So this is just typically how I always have sectioned for male haircuts. It makes sure that you're keeping weight in the sides, but also connecting it through the top. So we're gonna show you exactly how to do that. But the finger guides actually really help as you are sectioning out the hair to make sure that you're equal on both sides. And then of course you always go back and check it too. All right, so sometimes he obviously has a lot of hair here on the top, so it's easy to section it out, but sometimes you do need quite a few clips to section it out, especially if it's somebody who has, 1 inch, one and a half inch hair on the top. It's gonna be a little bit shorter. So do what you can with your clips. But what we're gonna do is we are gonna start here. You can see we have a lot of length here. We're actually gonna be taking off most likely like 3/4 of an inch, not quite an inch, but I definitely wanna take out a lot of this weight that's in here. He says that his hair grows really quickly. He said that he got it cut 4 weeks ago. I don't know if I believe that. It feels like a little bit longer because we know that typically hair grows about 1/2 an inch a month. I feel like this is a little bit longer. If we look and kind of pull it out, I would say that's like 3/4 of an inch that I want to take off there. So I'd rather go a little bit shorter so it lasts him a little bit longer. So, and that's what he agrees on that one too. Yes. Okay, cool. But you will notice right here, we do have some sideburns that are a little bit shorter than the rest of his hair. So I'm just gonna integrate those into the haircut. We will come back in and kind of clean those up. So we are gonna get started. We're just gonna take our first diagonal back section here. And one thing you will know with every single men's haircut, it's gonna be a little bit different. Everybody has a little bit of a different hairline. You'll kind of get used to different hairlines and things like that. But when you're first starting out, don't freak out. Take this as the regular sectioning formula. Just kind of go for it, and you'll start to learn more and more men's haircuts that you do. And it's funny, the reason why I feel like I got decently good at doing men's hair was because I had 3 brothers and a dad. So I feel like I got a lot of men's hair to test out on, especially when I was first starting out. All right, so you are noticing, do you see these like long sections here? I am cutting these. You can tell that this was actually from his old haircut, part of his top section. but I personally don't love it when I have too much length. You can kind of see right here. So this was his old top section. It would have gone up to that section, and it was disconnected based off of his other haircut. So we can kind of see here, and this happens a lot in a lot of men's haircuts. We can see that it was disconnected. So here was his length on the side. Here's his length on the top. It might be kind of hard to see from this angle, but there is an 1.5 inch disconnection. I personally do not like when men's haircuts are disconnected, because what happens is it takes, and he wears his hair this way, it takes all of that weight that we left in there and it leaves this heavy weight line, or it can leave a really heavy, chunky weight line, and so it can get poofy right here. So personally for me, in most men's haircuts, I do like to connect the dots, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit, but I don't like it when the sides are heavily disconnected from top. I do like to connect them. So like I said, I'm gonna show you how to do that, but unless it's something where it's like a really tight, fade here, and then they want this like big pompadour, then of course you're gonna have to disconnect it a little bit. But for most men's haircuts, which this is just like, I would say an average men's haircut, I don't like to disconnect it that way. And I do see that a lot. So anyways, yeah. So we are going to connect that. So that's why if you see me taking off a little bit more weight here, you might be like, what the heck is Jamie doing? Why is she taking off all that weight? That's because I see my guideline and I know where I want it to be. And yeah, I feel like it's too much weight. So, and I am almost taking off 3/4 inch, almost an inch in some places, just because, like I said, I know his hair grows quickly. And we do want this to be a little bit tighter for the look that we're going for. So as you can see, I am now continuing around to the back of the head. We just went behind his ears. And one thing I will note is his hair is already starting to dry out. So I'm going to grab my spray bottle here and wet it down a little bit, because I do want to make sure that when I'm cutting the hair that it stays evenly wet the whole time. And I personally love this spray bottle from Framar because I don't know if you can see, but it has a continuous, it's really hard to see here, but it has a continuous misting kind of thing. And it's just very light and delicate. So I have that linked in my Amazon favorites if you want to check it out, but I do love my Framar spray bottle. All right, so I actually did go back in and kind of trim this up a little bit more. I asked him, I said, hey, do we want to go a little bit shorter? And he's like, yeah, that's going to grow out pretty quickly. So I did go in and go a little bit shorter. I did clean up around the ears. We will go back in with some trimmers and kind of clean that up too. But what I wanted to show you is as I start to round the head, my body positioning has to change, right? So you saw that I was cutting with my kind of cutting like this, got my scissors like this. This is going to be a little bit more ergonomically better for your wrist. However, I sometimes, and you will see me do this, tend to want to turn my wrist and cut this way. But look at, that is not a good angle for your wrist versus something like this. So it's just all about body positioning. As you do hair longer, you want to protect your body. You want to protect your wrist. You want to protect as much as you can. Don't get into bad habits like I did, because like I said, that's how, if I was doing a lot of men's haircuts and I was cutting like this all the time, that's really going to screw me up. So just something that you can just make those small adjustments. But one thing I wanted to show you is, I'm going to finish up this section real quick here, and then I'll show you even how there, see, I'm doing it. And sometimes, to get the right angle, you do have to, do funky things with your wrists, contort, because this would be a little bit hard as I'm getting kind of down into that angle. So one thing I was going to say is, as I started to round the head, I actually started to change my body positioning and was holding the hair this way and was cutting it this way on that top, just because it was a little bit easier than doing it like this. But totally up to you. Find what works for you. Neither way. How do you say it? Neither way is wrong. I feel like I can go a little bit faster when I'm cutting the hair like that. So yeah. And again, this is just, I've done this for many, many years. So I can get through a men's haircut pretty quickly, especially even if I'm not even taking like perfect sections and stuff. I can bust through a men's haircut. But obviously for this video, I'm trying to take little cleaner sections for you just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. The biggest thing I want to say is make sure you don't lose your guide. Sometimes what can happen with men's hair is as you start to round the head or come towards the back or whatever that might look like, it can get longer and longer and longer and increasingly longer, and then you have somewhat of a mullet or a lot of bulk back here. So just keep that in mind, constantly check if you need to even go to the side and check your length here, check your length here, you know, kind of check your length here. And then what I like to do also is I will go in, this is a little premature, but I would go in after I've kind of done a full section and cross check and do a little bit of light scissor over comb. And what I'm looking for is I'm making sure that we have, again, this is premature because I haven't even cut that section yet, but I'm making sure that I have consistency across the board as to the lengths and stuff, right? So you can see there was a little bit of extra weight there, so I'm just kind of cleaning that up and making sure so that he doesn't have a bunch of ridges or things like that in his hair. So I'll go through, do a little bit of light scissor over comb just to kind of check it. So now that I've kind of got to the back middle section, I'm gonna jump back over to the other side. I'm gonna do the exact same thing. But the biggest thing that I wanna make sure is as I'm doing the other side, making sure to cross-check and making sure that I have equal amount of length on both sides. So one side is not longer or heavier than the other. All right, so I've now finished the entire bottom section of his hair, and as you can see, we definitely have to clean up the hairline, but I'm gonna go in and do my trimmers at the very end. That's just personally how I like to do it before I, you know, finish up the haircut. But I do not wanna leave this just hanging. It looks a little funky to me. So you can already kind of see that he has kind of a hairline coming over here, but I will just kind of even it out and kind of shape that with my shears. Also, just heads up, I always watch back these cutting videos, and because we shoot from the side, sometimes things look uneven or whatever, so just because you're watching it from an angle, it might look uneven. I promise it is even. We'll show you in the final picture or after result, but anyways, I'm just gonna go through, trim this up real quick here. I also do like to come over here and sometimes even just comb this hair forward. You can even see there's a little bit of extra length right there. I missed that, guy, so just kind of comb that out, clean that up so we don't have like heaviness and stuff. But I always just pull the ear back and just kind of trim up here. So again, this is just me as I'm going through the haircut, cleaning things up, and then we'll go back through with trimmer. Good. But yeah. All right, so we are going to now move on to the top section. So what I like to do, especially with somebody who has long hair, look at how long this hair is. I mean, we've got a lot of length here. So I like to comb it all back, kind of see what we're working with. And then I'm gonna take my guide from the center. So I'm gonna take just a sliver here from the center, comb that over. And typically I like to make this about 1/2 inch wide, no wider. Maybe even less than 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch. And so now I've kind of got my guide section. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to connect it back here to the back. So it's kind of hard to see for you guys, but I've got my length back here in the back, and this is what I'm gonna connect it to. And this is what I'm talking about, where I connect the dots. So we've already got our short length back here. And this is also another reason why I took that horseshoe down here. I don't like to take the horseshoe too high up because I do wanna make sure that we have length here. Otherwise we can get some sticking up calyx and stuff. So I'm gonna take this guide that I've created, and we got our length back here, and I'm gonna kind of cut short to long. So kind of short, going a little bit longer, because we do actually want to retain some of this length here in the top, but we're taking some of it off. So I'm gonna take off, you can kind of see we've got some dead ends here too, so definitely want to make sure that thickens up, because if you have a lot of these, you can kind of even see it's kind of thin here. It's just because his hair is longer. But if we don't thicken this up, this can actually make his hair look wispy. And you kind of saw that when it was dry. It can look wispy and it can look thinner. And no guy wants their hair to look thin. So we're just gonna thicken that up here. Taking about 3/4 of an inch off, almost an inch off. And we're going all the way straight through. Now you can see I'm just literally pulling this hair straight up. And kind of following the curve of the heads. So now that I've got my guide, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna split that down the middle. And that's why I like to make it about 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch wide, so that I have a little bit on this side, a little bit on this side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start working in pivoting radials. What does that mean? So I'm gonna take just a little section. So this is straight down. Now I'm just gonna go a little bit off to the side, and we're gonna work our way all the way up. So kind of like this, all the way through to the front. So I'm going to use that same guide. Now, One thing I wanted to mention, especially with guys' hair, especially when they have this long hair, sometimes it can be easy to get lost. So you want to make sure if you're getting lost, take that section, cut it in half, and you should be able to find your guide. And if you can't find your guide, go slow, go back, find that section before, comb it out of the way, and find your guide. Now you can see I'm connecting, again, down here from my length, got my guide in there, and we're connecting all the way through. Just working on this back crown section. I'm gonna keep continuing this till I get all the way through to the front. Okay, so remember when we were over here and we had all this weight? Look at all that weight. Oh my gosh, probably a huge weight line. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to disconnect it just so slightly because I don't want him to push his hair off to the side and be like, oh my God, my hair's gone, it's all short. So I am gonna disconnect this. So how I'm gonna do that, but I'm still gonna make it connected, if that makes sense. So I don't need all this weight. This is way too much weight, but I'm going to pull it out straight from the head. And you can see this is our length down here that it's connecting into the sides. I am going to over direct that just a smidge bit, and if I need to kind of texturize this a little bit more when we dry it, we will. And then I'm going to go up just about there. So as I continue into the sides, because we do have this recession, most men are always going to have some sort of recession. I do like to over direct this section back a little bit to make sure that we're maintaining a little bit of the weight there, because I don't want it to have a hole. Just in the same way when we're cutting a short haircut down around the ears, we want to make sure we don't have a hole there. This is the same thing with that recession area. So I'm directing this back a little bit, so kind of right about to where the recession starts, if that makes sense, directly up above. And actually we're not taking off too much length here in the front. And just make sure, connect this corner. I'm actually gonna point cut this and then comb it back, make sure we don't have any weight lines. Looking pretty good here. It's not how he wears his hair necessarily, but that looks pretty good. I always do make sure to dust off my client's face as well, because as you're cutting, that happens. You know, you get a little hair in their eyes and stuff. So clean them up, and we're gonna go on to the other side, do the exact same thing. All right, so now I'm gonna trim up his neckline. We just finished through the top. I did have him run his hands through it just to kind of feel it out and tell me, hey, how does that length feel? I like to do that, especially with my male clients, because they know how their hair lays. And if it needs to go shorter, I'd rather do it now when it's wet versus when we dry it. So just kind of a tip. So I always unclip the cape here. Now you can see that his neck hairs do go down a little bit further. So I personally like to just kind of, if they have a collar, I just kind of fold that under, and then I usually kind of go down to about that area. I just kind of like to kind of start and establish my line here first, get the bulk out. And the biggest thing you do not want to do is take it up too high. So I always like to kind of follow where the client's hairline really does stop. You can kind of see he has a natural hairline. So follow their natural hairline as to where their hair kind of stops. There would be occasionally a client that had a really low hairline, so I would take that up a little bit, but that's, again, it's gonna be somebody who has just kind of a lot of hair. So follow their hairline, and that'll just grow out better for them. Now do keep in mind when you are doing this, I do like to kind of just remove the hair with my fingers. Be aware of any like moles or raised spots and things, not to cut them or anything like that, obviously. Just it off here. Look at that, already so much better. Okay, so now that I've kind of done my initial, what I will do is I will step back and see that we're dipping a little bit lower here. So go in, and one thing I'm noticing here is we've got a little cowlick, which is totally fine, but I actually do want to take this just a little bit shorter. I'm just gonna do a little scissor over comb here just to kind of blend that up. It feels a little bit heavy. So I'm just kind of tapering this just in a little bit. But keep in mind, you know, we do have a cowlick right here. So if I take this up too short right in here, what can happen is now I've got a hole. So just keep that in mind. And here's the thing. You're gonna mess up on someone's hairline at one point in your career. Don't freak out. Usually there's a way to fix it. If that means you do need to take it up a little bit shorter to fix that, That's totally fine. For me, I personally like to square off my hairlines a little bit. So again, kind of following this client's hairline, I do like to have it a little bit more squared off. Some guys do like it rounded out. So sometimes I'll ask their preference, but usually I like to just keep it square. Okay, so you can see we've got a little bit of long hair here. So we're gonna trim this up just like that, clean it up. Again, I did go through and do this a little bit with my scissors, but I do like to do it with the trimmers. Clean up the sideburns here. And again, I'll just take this ear and kind of barely fold it down, kind of get in there, just kind of taper it, you know? Makes it look cleaner. Be careful, don't ever go in like this with the clippers. I've done that. Definitely cut a client once, so learn from my mistake. Okay, and so for his sideburns, I am gonna take my comb here, do a little bit of clipper over comb. I always like to do this last because it's just kind of like I like to see how everything's laying, you know, whatever. And I also like to come in and clean this up here in the front a little bit. I don't like to line up guys too much, but I do want to just make it look clean, right? And again, this is all stuff that some clients do have a preference on. So if they do say something, I will obviously take their preference into consideration, but a lot of guys don't really say anything. So I just go for it. All right, so I'm just gonna dust him off real quick. His hair is almost dry, but we are gonna take a blow dryer to it. We'll blow dry it, and then I'm gonna just finish it up with a little texturizing. All right, so all I did was I kind of went through with my texturizing shears and just kind of blended in this a little bit more. And so I just kind of took some cross sections and went through and just did some little bit of texturizing with my shears, kind of like this. So I'd kind of hold up a section and just do a little bit of light texturizing. Now, one thing that you want to be cautious of, sometimes you'll see, and he has more like stick straight hair, but sometimes what happens is I will see people try to go in and do scissor over comb, and they will go in really deep with their texturizing shears. And so what that can happen and cause is a lot of little short hairs in here. It grows out terribly, and sometimes you can actually cause lines because you're literally cut. So instead, if you are going to use your texturizing shears to blend anything versus doing it this way, either I'll just do just barely the surface or do a section like this and cut into it that way. That way you're not gonna create another line. So sometimes I will do it just kind of around that perimeter where we did blend in the top into the sides. And occasionally I will do a little texture in here depending on the client and how they wear their hair. If they want their hair to stand up a little bit more and they've got a lot of weight in here, sometimes I will do a little bit of texturizing just kind of in here, even point cutting texturizing, something like that, versus, you know, going in and just like cutting it again. That's going to grow out really terribly. So I'll do some little point cutting texturizing with my texturizing shears. But he has already hair that can tend to get wispy towards those ends. You saw as I started to cut it, it could get a little wispy. So I actually do want to keep a little bit more of this weight in here so it doesn't look thin as it starts to grow out. But yeah, so that's all I did. And now I'm just gonna style it out with a little styling cream. All right, and here is our final look. As you can see, we trimmed up a lot. He had a lot of hair. So yeah, it turned out really good. I really like it. I feel like this is my go-to look for just men's hair clients. So check this out, try it out. If you struggle with doing men's hair, honestly, this technique really works for me, always has, and always gets a really great result. So yeah, hope you try it out. And like I mentioned, we actually did a full hair color transformation on my friend Jake after this video. And if you want to check that out, you can go watch it after this one. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.